Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. Randy is perfectly content with fading into the background, but when his coworker Benson goes on a sudden and violent rampage, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake, Randy is forced to face his fears and confront his troubled past to survive. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is our raw reaction review for The Passenger. And to kick things off here, Luke, yeah, I don't think either of us really knew anything about this before we got the screener. I mean, this was really quite a surprise that kind of came out of nowhere. We were just offered to check this movie out. We actually got invited to an in-person screening in Los Angeles. But for those who don't know, we were based out of the old Akron, Ohio area. So there was no way that was going to happen. But thanks to the lovely PR team working this film with Blumhouse and all of the other teams. I think MGM is a piece of this too. They were able to set us up with a screener and we were able to check this thing out. And yeah, Luke, I got to ask, did you have any inkling of this film before we went into it?
Not at all. This one skipped right past me. I did not really see this show up on anyone really talking about it at all, but I'm absolutely glad that this one did fall into our lap, so to speak. I do want to say one thing about this film. If you're just subscribed to the channel and you clicked on the review to see if, maybe you would be interested in this and you want to go check out the trailer, don't. It does tend to give away, in my opinion, a little too much, especially for the first probably 30 minutes of the film. And I think you're better off going in cold and not knowing what to expect, because I think there's an incident that happens that's going to pack a lot of punch for you if you do not watch the trailer.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I've said it a lot on this channel. Is just like trailers. If it's a movie I've never seen, I do like to see them. But I think that I can agree with Luke here that this trailer, although is impactful, it's a well cut trailer. It does tend to give a little too much away. But I did not see the trailer before I watched this. I went in completely cold. Like I said, we got the screener, and I just was like, let's see what it is. It's Kyle Gallner. We know him from Smile, and some of you might remember him from, that horrible Nightmare on Elm Street movie back in 2010. But no, the guy's a great actor. He's also on a show called The Outsiders, which I watched a couple seasons of. It's pretty good. But he's always a standout. He's a lot of charisma. And I got to start this review off by just saying, man, what a powerhouse he is in this film. Like, Kyle Gallner is absolutely stretching his legs with this character of Benson. I mean, he starts off kind of like how his characters usually are. I would say in recent films, very subdued, but something switches and then he's just on for the rest of the film. And I was just obsessed with this character.
Absolutely. And, Kyle Gallner is, I've seen some of his earlier stuff, and I'll say, like, with his current stuff here, especially in The Passenger, he's gotten this kind of gruffness, you know what I mean? Where he can play these hard hitting characters that are absolutely believable. And when he does turn on that switch, because he's pretty quiet at the very start of this film, but again, there's a huge incident, and then we really get to dive deep into that Benson character and the flips that he switches throughout this film, just with the range of emotion that he gives, especially between that Benson and Randy character and the kind of relationship that they develop. And it's very volatile and, again, a wide range of emotions that you will see from that Benson character. Kyle Gallner just puts on an absolutely stellar performance here because, as we're saying that he flips that switch, it's not just anger. There is a lot of emotion through that Benson character, especially when he is talking to Randy and some of the discussions that they do have. He is all across the board, and he does it all beautifully.
Yeah, no, he's definitely very strong in this. I genuinely was so impressed with just kind of the depth that he was able to give to this character. And it's kind of a slower burn, I must say, as you watch this movie. It is very much. I think you said it best off air that this is a character study of the characters of Benson and Randy. I would say more so Benson in a lot of ways because he is kind of the more entertaining character, as Randy is kind of our vessel throughout. But you really just get to sit with these characters as they kind of go through this day of just absolute chaos that you just have no idea what is going to happen next. And I think that is probably, next to Kyle Gallner's performance, the best part about this film is that I was watching it and I had no clue, not even an inkling of where this story was going. Does it all pay off in the end? I think I need to sit on that for a little bit longer personally. I think Luke will have more to say on that as we go along in the review. But I thought that overall this was a very competent project, and really just a sweet treat that again really came out of nowhere. And I thought that this was a lot of fun, as far as just being someone who we talk about it all the time. We like to write. We write a lot of things, of various different horror projects and other things. But this kind of has some horror elements to it, but it's more thriller. But it is so contained, and it is so much of a character piece that it's kind of admirable of just what they were able to pull off with this story.
Yeah, and the definition of horror is so complex that it's really hard to nail down what is horror and what is not. There's such a mixture of emotions going on. So I think this is horror in a sense, but yeah, if we want to define it, we can get into thriller. But at the end of the day, this one is so character heavy, and like looking at this film, you're going on a journey in a sense, but not like as a journey that you're usually expecting with a film where you have so much. I mean, you have a trigger and a few other things, but this is really much more of a series of events that are happening. And the relationship again between Randy and Benson, and how Randy is, I don't want to say necessarily this is a coming of age story, but it's one of those things where the Benson character does force Randy to face a lot of the situations that he is just pushed by the wayside and doesn't want to face those. And it becomes this weird relationship that, I don't think necessarily a lot of people are going to resonate with, but it's just something you're in awe of, and you're just become slightly obsessed with, because it's like, again, they flip these switches and there is a mixture of emotion here. So you take that Benson character and you want to define him as evil in a sense, but the compassion that he has with the Randy character is weird, and I think it's well done. And I'm not saying weird as a negative at all. Again, it's just something so compelling and something you kind of want to sit with and have more time with these characters because of the situations that they are bringing to the table and the uniqueness that they have. Because the anger that's portrayed in the Benson character only works with the compassion that the Randy character has, and then kind of melding those two characters together, especially when you have them, in this kind of road movie in a sense. And they are in the car, together, just sharing different stories and going back and forth. It's something where it is a series of events and it is more situational, but all these interactions that between Randy and Benson, and then all the characters they bring into the situations, you just want to stay with and kind of just sit there and kind of, it's very voyeuristic, where it's like you just want to sit there and watch. You want to be in the backseat of the car and just listen to these guys talk.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way to describe it, because, the conversations are really what drive this film between this, Randy and Benson character. And, I got to give some credit to the actor Johnny Birchtold, who is the Randy
Yes.
character. He brings a lot of emotion. You really see him go through a range of different things, like right from the beginning. He's got a little bit of, that kind of, every day, kind of like it's like we described in the opening. He's kind of ready to just fade away into the background, going with the motions. They
He's a
have a
character
great,
that people can resonate with, I think,
yes,
at least one point in their life.
yes, and they give you this kind of like little pick me up that I think I've personally been there, where it's like, you're kind of like you're talking to a superior at a job, and they give you that inkling of like, oh, you could move up, you could be manager, stuff like that, and you just see like, that's really all he's got going for him right now. And, to see what happens as the film transpires and the kind of journey that Benson and him go on it is very, very intriguing, very, very interesting. And I genuinely think a film that we had said before we started recording, I think it's going to pop up on a lot of people's lists, if not for the end of the year, but also for movies that you probably never saw. Which, I kind of hope isn't the case. I know reviews are just now starting to really start to hit, and the film does come out this Friday. I really want to see this thing pick up some steam, because do I think that this is going to work for everybody? No. Just because I think that some people, although it has scenes of viscera and, complete, like, wow, like that's shocking, I just don't see some audience members getting behind the kind of story that this is telling. It doesn't leave you completely wrapped up with everything. Not all of the puzzle pieces are put back into place. And I could see that being a huge turnoff for some people. But again, this is a movie about characters. This is an actor's piece. And I think that is where it shines. This is one of those things where you don't really get movies like this as much anymore. I feel like we get something similar to this every couple of years, where you just have an actor's piece. The last thing, it's not really like this at all. It does involve a car, but it was Locke, where that's all character. That's all really sitting there with a character going through a turbulent time in their life. This one has a little bit more to it, but it's one of those things where I kind of draw that comparison to it, where it's kind of like this small to mid-range film that really just lets its actors go and really lets them drive the story, and it's not so driven by set pieces or big twists or anything like that. It is purely character driven and character based, and that's wonderful. And honestly, a bit of a timely film for the time that we're living in, where actors are on strike in Hollywood, and this is a good example of just having faith in your actors to be the ones to make your film.
Yeah, and like I think as audience members, a lot of people kind of they're used to that beginning, middle, and end. We want all our questions answered as the credits roll. We don't want anything left open ended. And maybe that's more so the commentary on how a lot of screenwriting and storytelling is done nowadays, where we have to tell you every little thing. Now, The Passenger is something where you're not going to leave here asking a bunch of questions, but I don't think they're interested in telling you every little detail about each of these characters. They want to make them real. They want a kind of an ending situation where it's like, well, that could actually happen in real life. I think it's more, this film is a little more steeped in realism than, a horror fan going to the theater to see whatever the hot Insidious, or whatever you want to say, the hot horror property is. And like for this film, as you were saying, maybe a lot of people, this may pass by a lot of people's radar. I think this is going to kind of be, if I had to equate it to a film from last year, Watcher, where it was like one of those films where a lot of people started talking about it, but a lot of people didn't see it until the end of the year. And I could easily see The Passenger being one of those films where it's like, oh, have you seen this? And it's showing up on people's lists, and then people are going to go back and check it out. And as we are a horror podcast, and as we are gore hounds in a sense, there is some gore in here. There's a big event at the very beginning that I think, if you have an appetite for that gore, you'll be satisfied in a sense. And there is another interaction later on in the film that is very gory as well. Now, these situations, they're not, this isn't a Terrifier 2 or anything like that, where we're getting tons of gore. I think, especially with like the storytelling as well, where it's like, they're only giving you bits and pieces. They want to tell you a complete story. They want to mix in as much emotion. They don't want to stick to necessarily. I don't think this film wants to be defined by one genre only. They want to kind of mix everything in. And again, it's more so about the characters, and we as human beings have a lot of genres in our heads, as so to speak. So I think they kind of mix that all together just to tell the story of these characters.
Absolutely. And I think the best way I could probably describe this, if you wanted me to put a genre on this, I'm going to call this a psychological drama.
Yeah.
I think that, the psychological elements, yes, there are elements of horror. Yes, there are elements of just kind of getting really cerebral with these people and just understanding the traumas that they've been through. And, it's a tough one to crack. It's a tough cookie to really put a name on. But at the end of the day, it's a cookie I enjoyed. It's something that I will definitely be going back to. And I do see myself picking this up on Blu-ray. Honestly, I think this would be something that I'd like to go back again and more study just the simplicity of having your story rely purely on the slow development. of characters, their past, their dramas, and watching these two interact. I do think that this is something that is going to be kind of a hidden gem throughout 2023. Now, again, do I think this is going to work for a general audience? I don't. I don't think that many people who like to have their hands held are going to really get behind this. I think that this is going to leave a lot of people frustrated. But I think that, for people who are, really into these kind of films like Taxi Driver and, stuff like that, I think that this, or Lock, like I said, I think that this, in a way, is going to kind of satisfy that niche. And, one last big thing I got to go before we wrap up here is just Carter Smith, the director of this. He's known for The Ruins, which I haven't seen in a long time, but I remember enjoying it when I saw it. My dad and I rented it from Netflix back in the day. Very unique concept there. And he also did Swallowed last year, which is something I still want to see, that they got some pretty good praise from people in the community here. I think that this guy's got a really great vision and a really awesome aesthetic. I think that like having him do something like this with these characters, just having a really meaty script and a meaty, people to play with, and just knowing how to cast correctly, I think he did an excellent job. And I really think that giving this guy some bigger budgets may not hurt. I'd love to see him even do like a, just kind of randomly, I'm going to throw this out there. I want to see him, just with the aesthetics of this, do like a time period piece of like maybe in the 60s or 70s, maybe do like a mob drama or something like that. I just feel like he would nail that aesthetic beautifully.
Absolutely. And, like this film, I was actually going to mention, as you were talking about the storytelling here, this really does remind me more of a 70s style storytelling, where it is a slower paced. It is just about the situation. It's not something that we're going to do quick cuts. We're going to live in the interactions for a little bit longer than normal for audience members. So I can see it being frustrated in that sense if you go into here not knowing what to expect. And I love the aesthetic of this film. It almost presents this timeless a manner, I would say, because of the aesthetic of what the characters are dressed in and that small town. It almost seems like it's way back in the day, but it isn't, from what I can tell. But so it kind of makes it hard to pinpoint what exactly the time period is. But just with the color usage that is here, and then some of the shot selections are just gorgeous in here, especially when they're in the car, and the way you can kind of there's only so many ways you can shoot two characters talking in a car, but I think Carter Smith does a great job of kind of keeping it interesting, keeping it flowing. And then just some of the shots in the diner with the color usage there as well, kind of really, where we're all staying in this town, a lot of the scenes feel completely unique and different in each to their own, almost like they're in completely different settings. But overall, I absolutely enjoyed this film. It's something that I'm easily going to go back to. I believe this is going to be renting on VOD. I believe it's going to end up on MGM Plus at some point, I think, streaming. So this is something that is easily, go ahead and check it out. I definitely want to own this on Blu-ray, and I got to give me that poster too.
Oh yeah, it is a nice poster. I remember when we got the screener, that was the first thing he said, was like, that poster, that's all I need right there. I'm sold. Kyle Gallner in that poster. I'll check it out. But yes, guys, The Passenger will be on digital and on demand on August 4th, this Friday, for you guys to rent and check out. I believe it's also going to be having a very limited theatrical release, so definitely check your local screen, see if anything's going to be out there, and as well as coming to MGM Plus later in 2023. So yeah, that is our review of The Passenger. Let us know if you guys are going to check this one out, or if you have seen it. I expect that this one will probably be something that we see a lot of comments on later in the year, as people kind of get around to it and then want to see what other people thought. But yeah, this was a pleasant surprise. I was really pleased that we got this. I enjoyed it. And yeah, I definitely think I'll be revisiting this one for sure. Again, do I think it's for everybody? No, but I think the people that seek this movie out will not be disappointed. So yeah, guys, other than that, we got a lot of great stuff coming to the channel. We are going to be some busy bees going into August here. I know you didn't have us a lot in July because we were shooting our short film, Sycophant, which the trailer is up right now, so you can check that out at your leisure. And yeah, but we have a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of things in the works, lots of fun stuff, and yeah, I am very much looking forward to it. So other than that, I guess that about wraps us up. So I am Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.